Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Dead Robot Society live coming at you. What is today, April 12th?
What day of the week is it?
You're
What
guessing
month is it?
Oh, it's Saturday or so. April 11th. That's what it is. April 11th. It could be April 12th in some places
Are you
already.
sure? Okay.
Sure.
I'm going to write that down. This is the first time I've known the date, and I don't know how long.
As you can see, folks, we've got somebody guesting with us today.
Yes, we do. Apart from Terry, my co-host, we also have author, publisher, and general pain in the rear, David Wood.
Photoshop expert David Wood joins us today.
Yes.
Bad Photoshop expert.
The man, the myth, the meme maker. The meme maker. So what the hell are y'all doing, man? It's what was this week 45 of the quarantine? I can't remember anymore. I've lost track of when the hell
this is the weirdest leap year ever, because February had 29 days, March had like 300 days, and it seems like April's got about 5 years. I stole that from a meme.
Moving. This is still about April 5th or so. We just kind of froze.
I don't know. My life froze pretty much March 9th or whatever when I got back from Hawaii. I really haven't gone anywhere since.
Yeah, it's been funny for me because since I work from home anyway, and my kids are older and drive themselves, and my wife doesn't work anymore, life for the most part doesn't feel much different than it did before, except when I want to watch a football game or go to a game or something like that. And my kids are home a lot more. A lot.
Oh, are you one of those poor people that are locked in with their kids?
Yeah. The good thing is my kids are basically grown. One of them turns 18 in a couple of weeks, and the other's 20 something.
20 something, don't even know.
Yeah, I'm losing track. Let's see, 95. So she's 24. Yeah. But anyway, we all get along really well and have a lot of fun together. It's just that the younger one is, she's an extrovert and the rest are introverts. And she's trying to get ready for college, and she's trying to train to try out for the cheerleading squad. So she's a lot antsier than the rest of us are. The other three, we love the social distancing. Like, hey, I hope people stay 6 feet away from me for the rest of my life.
You certainly live out far enough away that you shouldn't have to worry about that.
Yes, we are in the middle of nowhere. It's a 30-minute drive to Santa Fe. So other than our little country store that's, 10-minute drive, everything's an hour round trip. So we're that old country family that goes to town once a week and stocks up, and that's about it.
It's a rough
But
life.
I've been getting really good at cooking, of learning recipes and how to do our favorite stuff and kind of stepping it up so we don't miss the restaurant so much anymore. So it's been fun. And then I'm just typing.
Frankly, you should just be glad that we're having Walking Dead style zombies as opposed to World War Z style zombies.
Yeah, those are much more aggressive.
I don't know,
faster,
man.
A lot faster.
Have you heard about some of the scenes in Walmart? I'm not sure the slow zombies are more dangerous than Walmart customers who are fighting over that last box of Nilla wafers, let alone the toilet paper.
I gotta see, our Walmart has been very chill. Of course, Santa Fe is a pretty laid-back place. Supposedly the slogan is Carpe Mañana, because we're just not in a hurry for anything. And I'm happy to be out here. I grew up in Atlanta, and as much as I loved it, the county where I'm from is something like 11th in COVID cases. They were very late to do social distancing and anything, but there are reasons for that don't have anything to do with literature. But right now I'm happy to be in a place where I'm 7 acres away from each of my neighbors, and even when I go into town, I don't have to deal with a lot to people. So
that's
we're
extreme social distancing is what that is. Extreme social distancing.
And hey,
I want the social
closest to us is empty.
I want the social distancing that I had when I was a kid, because I lived 20 miles outside of a town of 10,000, 2 miles down a dirt road at the very end of it, and literally could not see a neighbor unless I walked to the front end of that 2 miles. Because none of the rest of the places on that road actually had people that lived there. They just came to visit there. They had cows there. They had something else there. Never could see anybody. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
I got nothing. You guys scare me. Don't you miss going to a pub with your mates or playing pool in a smoky bar? You know, hanging out till 2 a.m. drinking coffee at some old diner.
Actually,
No.
a friend of mine texted me, and we do a monthly brew and bullshit session where we'll just go to a local pub or somewhere, have a couple beers, and just talk shit. Because he works from home as well in a different field, and he had said, "Oh, do we need to have like an online beer and bullshit session one day just to have some more human contact?" So we might end up doing that. But for the most part, no, I'm not a super social animal.
I don't know, man. I don't know about you guys. I think you spend way too much time alone. Says the guy who, is growing his beard
Awesome
out.
person I know.
That's frightening. That's really frightening.
So have you guys started cutting your own hair? Because it looks like Paul has.
I've been trying to trim my beard and mustache. I'm not very good at it, but for this, I had to at least try because it was getting down below my lip, and that's just gross. And I'm very anti-neck beard, so I've been keeping this going. I don't like neck beards. But no, the haircut, I don't have that much hair left anyway. So
yeah, when's the last time I had a haircut? Oh, a year ago, January. So yeah. No, that's not happening. That's not happening. I've just decided this is my quarantine beard. We're going to see just how long it gets until I have to shave it because I have to go out with a mask.
Flats in it.
Yeah, there you go.
Just do a Viking beard.
Yeah, it sounds perfect.
No trim till Brooklyn.
I don't think you want to go to Brooklyn right now.
Just never mind. Just move along.
So what's been going on the writing front, guys? I mean, this is like a writing podcast, so I guess we should talk something about that.
Oh my God. Things I am going to be publishing Victory on Terra on Tuesday. I actually have it in my hands right now, but I'm not going to publish it on a religious holiday weekend where everybody's attention is focused elsewhere.
Well, that's a good point.
It took half the time it normally takes to get back from the editor. So it surprised me. I wasn't quite ready for it yet. And I've talked to a number of people, and it seems like, some narrators are talking about how the clients are being a little bit more cautious about spending money. Some of the editors are talking about how the same thing is going on there. And I was not expecting that. I guess I should have been, but surprise.
So basically the backlog kind of suddenly shortened.
Something like that. I'm a quarter of the way writing Spoils of War. I'll be done with it, hopefully the first week or two of next month. Things are going well for me. I'm being very productive.
Awesome.
Now, if only ACX would just get my last damn book out. David Wood, you told me that, it took you like 6 days to get approved. It's been since February 3rd. I don't even want to hear you talk to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure the backlog will be taken care of before the new stuff. Maybe it's because Kafer narrated and they love him or something. Because I don't have any special cred with Audible. But yeah, my last one, we approved it on a Friday, and I think Tuesday I got the notice that it was out, and I had my codes and everything. So
I know that the problem is that we sent ours out February 3rd, and it took them a month and more to get back and say, oh, there's a problem with one of the files. And then they just kicked the whole thing back out. And so it's had to be fixed and resubmitted. So God only knows how long it's going to take to get through.
Yeah, I think they're checking a lot of stuff manually because of that big scammer issue that they're trying to address now. But yeah,
well, hopefully
it shouldn't be a problem. You have a track record there.
Hopefully they'll speed that up a little bit. A lot of this audio verification that they're doing really should be automatic rather than people doing it.
Yeah, it's like they were acquired by Amazon, but they've never really transitioned to becoming an Amazon company. They still do a lot of things very oddly, and
they're still not fully integrated. All these years later, I still don't think they're integrated. And it's the same shitty user interface. It's the same shitty shopping experience. It's the same shitty everything. Yeah. And they just have never poured any money into it. It's ridiculous. They took an extra 10% out of your royalties. So, hey, there's that. Yeah, there is that. Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. And no more getting paid for the free promotional download codes.
Because people were cheating on that. Thanks, scammers.
Yeah. Which,
that
was one of the things that would sometimes incentivize a narrator to maybe take a chance on a royalty share because they knew that at minimum we could crank out a couple hundred giveaways and they could make several $100s back. And that's not an option anymore. So yeah, we're having to make some tough decisions with some Griffinwood stuff also, because we're in that, a lot of authors are in that in-between thing where they don't really make enough on pure sales to make it worth a narrator's time, but nor do they make enough to make it worth the publisher's time to put several thousand up front for it. So yeah, it's a tough time for audio.
Summer says that she's got us in stereo as she's watching us on the television. I got to tell you that I really don't think we're big
Feel
screen
special.
stereo. No, I don't think that's us.
Yeah,
Well, we were going to sing something, right? We were
no,
going to do a music and dance number.
Was it the Barney the Dinosaur song?
no.
I was thinking the Lumberjack song, since everyone's bearded. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay, but I don't remember the rest of the words.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to explain this one to YouTube. We're gonna get a copyright strike because I have no goddamn sense of humor. Oh, I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I
Something
sleep
about
all
working-
night and I work all day.
I was gonna say, I
jump
thought
on
that's what it
trees, eat my lunch. I go to the lavatory. On Wednesdays I go shopping and have buttered scones for tea. Oh, he's a lumberjack and he's okay.
Leave it to
Yeah,
Paul
did
to
you
actually know
that,
the
or did you
words.
look it up?
That's memory, dude.
That's impressive.
Well, if you were at the oh God, what was it? Mythwits had a trivia thing, and the subject was Monty Python, and I smoked everybody at the table.
Nice.
So I remembered the entire song lyrics.
Okay,
Viewers, you
talk
should
about
just
what
be
Cory
grateful
was
that we're
writing
not
when-
playing Cards Against Humanity right now, because we could do that. We could totally do that.
Oh, we are not streaming that. We are not streaming that. That is not happening. Not with this sick group.
We have found that it's a lot of fun to mix our Cards Against Humanity with our Cards Against Muggles and Cards Against Disney and Cards Against The Office and just play them all in one big combo. My niece has suggested that. It's a lot of fun. You get some crazy answers.
Wow.
Yep. I recommend it.
Whoa. Oh boy, that sounds
Especially if you're slightly impaired while you're playing.
right. That's what I was saying. That would be a lot of fun after way too many drinks.
Well, if we ever get together in person again, I'll bring a bunch of cards.
My wife, that's her habit. She literally buys all these knockoff games. She's got
Mhm.
all the expansion packs and every other variant of this that she can get her hands on. There's so many cards, I cannot even begin to tell you how many she has.
That's all.
And do we play with anybody? No.
No. Because that would be too difficult or something. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
All right. So we sort of ran off the rails after Terry told us what he was writing. What are you writing, Cooley?
Tell us it's on genre. Don't you start wandering into some mishmash land here,
For
Betty.
crying out loud, what is the
We've been telling for years what the problem is.
Okay, audience, how many of you played Dead Space? How many of you liked Dead Space? How many of you liked The Thing? How many of you liked Aliens, stuff like that? How many of you like that?
You have bought books based on those properties.
Or
Probably
similar
fewer.
ones? Or similar ones? That's the question I would ask. I don't think that's off genre. I think you guys are smoking Caracola. But anyway, regardless of all
No,
that.
you're emphasizing the wrong aspects, is what we're saying.
I'm telling
You've
you what
gotta
the damn
push the
story
tropes.
is. I'm telling you what the damn story is here. All right?
Your
All right?
elevator pitch, man. I tell you, you got to
Elevator
work on
pitch.
that.
I'm not going to give you my elevator bitch for this book.
Your elevator bitch.
I said
I
pitch.
I totally want to hear somebody's elevator bitch. I want to hear it.
Oh,
That's what McCumber was at Con since I was his publisher. I'm like, up in the elevator, bitch. Carry my stuff. Yeah.
oh, God. I don't see it as off genre. Regardless, I've got that book. I've got another one that I'm working on top of that, and I'm going back and there's a couple of places I need to or want to polish up Trident before I get to podcasting those portions. So, not to mention robots software. So that's kind of important as well. Yeah. See.
There's nothing wrong with space horror. There's nothing wrong with aliens. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just when you get down to the weeds of trying to explain what it is where you run afoul of.
I had the most awesome elevator pitch for the Black ever. I need to come up with an elevator pitch for Signal Decay. Pretty much on point for Paul, isn't it? Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It is.
What about you, David? What are you up to?
Well, you know me, I've always got 800 things going on. Alan Baxter and I have a new prequel novella out in our Jake Crowley series. It's called Sanctum. I like to describe it as like Indiana Jones meets Midsummer Murders, because it happens in an English village and it's kind of a small scale thing. The character has left the service and has gone into teaching, and that's where he is in book 1. But people didn't seem to know what Midsummer Murders was. One book reviewer said Jack Reacher goes to Hogwarts, but it's without the magic part. That kind of work.
That would, I would totally read that book. I would read Jack Reacher at Hogwarts.
Yeah, it doesn't have the fantasy, but otherwise it's fairly accurate. So that's our new thing. The next Dane Maddock is called Serpent. It's researched and thoroughly outlined. I just need to write it. But I'm trying to wrap up the 3rd book of a sci-fi series I've been working on under a pen name that I want to launch. And then maybe we'll have time to talk about it later. I am helping put together or helping operate. It's going to happen next weekend, an online Adventure Writers Summit that I'm really excited about. So that's the big thing I've got going on this coming week, is getting ready for that.
That sounds pretty cool.
It'd be fun.
And hopefully you'll be posting the link, or did you already post the link in the Facebook group?
I will post a link in the Facebook group. Once you told me I was going to be on the show, I had to like bathe and put on clothing and stuff.
Yeah, I'm afraid that onesie you were wearing, it just didn't cut it.
Yeah, especially with the backside out. Did I tell you the story about my Space Cat boxers?
No, tell us more.
It's awesome. Yes. My family has this tradition of buying me really ridiculous boxers as a prank for Christmas. And they have some, I wish I had them with me. They're cats in space. They're just literally cats flying through space. And when I had a vasectomy, they said, bring really tight boxers for when you go home. And that was before my weight loss. And those were by far the tightest drawers I owned. And so I had them on the chair, and I thought I would dress myself, but no, we get to a certain point in the procedure and the doctor says, okay, where are your boxers? I'm like, they're on that chair. And I hear the nurse start to laugh, and he's just standing there holding up my Space Cat boxers. There's me, there's the nurse, there's another doctor who is like interning, and he's there. And my doctor he's like, explain these. They're my Space Cat boxers. That's the only explanation you need. So yeah, that was a great moment in cat and underwear history. And I don't know why I'm talking about that.
You just snipped my nuts and you're worried about my cat underwear to ask me to explain that. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. That reminds me of a story that this guy was having surgery. I think it was in the UK, and the way they do it, they say, go ahead and write on your arm, not this arm. So that way, we make sure we're operating on the right piece here. You're involved in everything in this. So they left him with a marker, and his mom helped him write stuff all over his body. And if you wrote on his ass, if you're looking at this, you have got me upside down, and things like that. And the surgery was delayed for half an hour because the surgical team just kept laughing. They could not get their game faces on and get focused, because every time they move him or uncover something, they'd find something new.
Oh, God. I don't want to troll my surgeons. That's just not really a good idea. Yeah. I want those people focused. I don't want them. No. Doing this delicate procedure and then suddenly look over, and see a joke, and yeah, that's not a good idea.
Some people just can't play it straight, man. They've got to go ahead and have their humor in there.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna die at the table, somebody's gonna have a good time. Right. That's how that works. So what are we going to talk about besides a little bit of this, a little bit of that?
I saw somebody talking about writing a Sherlock Holmes style story, and they said, I would really love to write something like that, but I'm not a genius. How do I write something that I'm not? How do you fake it till you make it, basically? And that's an interesting question. How would you write something that you've got this brilliant hero. You're not, me personally, I'm not brilliant. So I'm not sure how I would come up with a brilliant hero, how I would make that person seem brilliant.
Well, ultimately, you know, stories are about characters and what happens in their lives and how they respond to the antagonist and what the antagonist is doing. And so I think you can put the bones of the story together. And what I do is whenever I encounter something that I'm not yet qualified to talk about, I will sometimes put 3 big X's and a bracket, say, research this and make this work. Or it's even better when I'm working with a co-author, because I can just put a note to, you know, Alan saying, put something awesome here, or figure out how this works and put this in. He usually tweets angry things when he encounters that in an outline. But
insert
hey,
big explosions here.
Yep. Yeah, I'll just put awesome fight scene here. Make sure character seems X, or make sure we show the reader that character is good at X. But with my science fiction that I've been working on, I've encountered that a lot, where I need to learn more about this particular thing, but I don't want to stop writing and spend a day in the weeds researching. So it's a lot more productive just to have those notes to myself. Learn more about this on second draft, learn more about that, learn more about that. But, you know, I'm not a discovery writer anymore, except in the outline phase. So that makes it a little easier.
Traitor.
I just got tired of wasting time. Time is money.
Yep, I totally get it. I think that if I was having to write a character using Sherlock Holmes as an example to show how brilliant he is, I'd have to concoct a series of circumstances in the opening scene so he could demonstrate his brilliance. And then I have to be very careful of how I portrayed that, because it's like you say, you're writing a character. You've got to have that portrayal. You've got to find the actor, the right actor to be on the page to portray that character, because actors aren't brilliant. Well, maybe some of them are brilliant, but when you have somebody playing Sherlock Holmes, they're not that smart. Mm-hmm. They've got to fake it. They've got to have certain things that they can do to fake it.
You know, what you say reminds me of the traditional Clive Cussler prologue in action adventure, where or Indiana Jones does it in some movies, where you introduce the character doing something memorable to set the stage. So in a Sherlock Holmes type thing, like I said, it could be a prologue where they're doing something brilliant, and that goes ahead and plants the seed in the reader's minds right away. Wow, this guy's really smart. And, you know, also as you go along, just because something doesn't seem super brilliant to us, it might seem brilliant to someone who hasn't been exposed to that new idea. So just avoiding making your character dumb is an important step there. Just don't make him an idiot, and that can help as long as you've established that brilliance early.
So you can't have Dumb and Dumber as detectives?
Well, you can, but the people around him are going to have to be even dumber if you want the readers to think they're smart.
Redneck Sherlock. Here we go. We're going to go out here and we're going to figure this out.
Or you pull a Pinky in the brain, where, you know, Pinky's actually the brilliant one and Brain's the idiot.
Nerf.
Overcomplicates everything. Pinky's actually the genius of the two of them. And have that kind of relationship happen and just let other people see it. So another possibility there.
Yeah. Well, you can give that person a sidekick to contrast.
Which is what
in part to show off their brilliance, but also to keep that person grounded, because that's what Watson will sometimes do.
I was going to say
that's expert, but yeah,
that's exactly the way that relationship worked. And you see that with buddy cop movies. You see that in all sorts of other tropes, where you have that kind of dynamic going on. One's a real badass, but the other one's supposed to kind of keep them tempered, and grounded is the right word for it.
Yeah.
If I'm writing a mystery, though, and to be honest, I really haven't written one, a traditional mystery, I would have to start with the outcome and work backwards.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you work backwards. How do they discover this piece? How do they discover this piece? Then it makes you look brilliant if all those pieces fit together like that. And if you know how those work, and maybe you don't know the first 3 steps, great. But now you know 4 through 12. And so 1 through 3, how you get there could be any way you want to do it. And maybe while going backwards, you're actually finding the plot points you need to hit and the kind of character that needs to find those things.
Yeah.
That's the way I would approach it.
Yeah. Well, even a discovery writer, if they have a good instinct for storytelling, they're going to be hitting those standard turning points in a plot structure, and those are the places where you can individually select, okay, how can my hero do this? It's going to be really impressive, and how can he or she be countered in a way that's going to require some intellect to get through this rather than brute strength. And so that's how you can kind of use your plot structure along the way to make them seem super smart.
There was a book that I read years ago called Inherit the Stars by James P. Hogan. And it involves a scientist being called into a secret project because people that are working on the moon find a 50,000-year-old body in a spacesuit.
Yeah. Awkward.
Very awkward because it's a human body. And they've only got what's on the body to try to figure out what it is. And the part that he's brought in for is the fact that there's a book that they don't dare open in his belongings because it's so old, it'll just come apart completely. It'll be destroyed. He's got an imaging, his company does imaging through objects to go ahead and try to see what's inside them. And that's how he gets drawn into this particular thing. And the part of the story that makes it really interesting is that step by step, little bits and pieces are revealed until you start to get an idea of where the story is going from. And then the big revelation of even more information changes everything you thought you knew. But it's a very meticulous step-by-step process that character is brilliant because the story displays his brilliance, because it's required to solve each of these individual little problems that they come across.
And it's also required to do his normal job, if you think about it. So it's something that character is automatically involved in. That thinking. Yeah, I think if you can display that kind of thinking, that they how they treat everyday things and everyday processes, how they go about getting dressed in the morning, how fussy are they with their food? Are they exact with how much stuff they got to have in their coffee? You establish all those kinds of traits, and they lead into obsessive compulsive kind of treatments of any situation. That seems to be really good things for
Why does that make me think of Hercule Poirot when you say it that way?
Yeah, Miss Marple pretty much too. I mean, I think they all have their little quirks, and some of them that are massive, but they all kind of fit in and explain exactly who that character is.
You could also have Monk from the television show.
Yes. Yeah. Although that's taking it to 11.
or you've got I've got this one other little question for
Columbo, another 11. Yeah, another 11.
I was thinking of the Pendergast series by Preston and Child. That's basically Sherlock Holmes in the thriller genre. But he doesn't exactly have a sidekick. They've been trying to work a female character in. Seems to be nudging in that direction. But he's almost superhero-ish in some ways because he's good at everything and he can kick ass and he's brilliant. And but readers don't care because he's an amazing, memorable character. But he's one who, even if he doesn't know everything, he just takes the time to learn within the context of the story and inform himself, which is another option. You can have your character learning along with you if there's something that you don't know about.
Yeah, that is a really great character. And plus, he's in a mess because he gets wrapped up in the supernatural, the super sciencey, or the just plain bizarre. And then you see how he approaches every piece of that. But yeah, you're right about the secondary character. They've tried to make the detective, whose name escapes me, they tried to make him that person and did in a couple of books.
In certain books, he's sort of the number two guy. And then there's a young woman, Corey Swanson, I think is her name, that they brought in. And they've been elevating her lately to sort of that role, giving him kind of relationship with her. So
is he the same one that writes one book a year, or is that somebody else? That's the guy that does Reacher.
Preston and Child are a writing team. It does tend to be about one book a year, but no, they're a duo. And
who writes Jack Reacher?
As well. That's Lee.
Yeah,
Lee Child. Okay. He's the guy that does a book a year. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's an indie author who calls himself Preston Child, who all of his first books were just tropes and names and stuff borrowed from all these best-selling people. And basically for the longest time, he didn't even have an author thing on Amazon because he wanted people to think he was Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. And his books just had many bad reviews because this is not Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. And anyway, that's we'd go into the weeds telling that story. But yeah, don't be confused with that one either.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that person.
Yeah.
Don't be.
Well,
No.
I mean, it's working. They're 30 books in, and people are still buying them. So go figure. It's tropes, Paul. It's tropes. You got to be tropey, even if you.
How do we make Paul tropey? I mean, I'm not sure that it's even possible, even though we really need to.
The Black was tropey.
Yeah, and it was successful.
We don't let him publish any of his own stuff anymore. It has to go through us.
So you're saying that going forward, everything he does has to be approved by, a minder? I think that's actually a pretty brilliant idea. But I don't want to mind him.
It's not so much the writing. I think it's the way he presents it to the world that we got.
I can see him now. He's in an elevator. Here's what this book is about. It's about space monsters, and then it's got this thing with ancient somebody steps up and puts a hand on his mouth. Let me tell you what this book is about. Morgan Freeman inserts himself into the conversation.
Fuck you, Terry. I was thinking more about the Family Guy episode where they show Stephen King, working on his next book. He goes to the publisher and goes, "What's it about, Steve?" And he looks around, grabs the lamp. A lamp's monster. Arr, arr. Really? Arr, arr. Okay, when can I have it? Arr, arr. And sometimes you wonder if it's like that, Oh, God.
Speaking of Stephen King, I don't know if you saw, but his son the other day on Twitter shared that people are calling COVID Captain Trump's.
Yeah.
Which I'm not trying to make a political statement. I just like the Captain Trips parallel. I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
that is pretty funny.
It's bizarre how many people immediately started going after that. I guess it's because most of the people that are on social media these days are also people who read that when they were kids, or teenagers, whatever. So it's funny that has really entered the consciousness, and you can see the deals all the way talking about when are we all heading to Vegas. Or Colorado.
I think it was Nebraska, wasn't it? It was Nebraska.
Boulder, yeah.
It was Boulder where the good guys were. The bad guys were all in Vegas.
That took her on to Boulder.
Yeah. The good guys ended up in Boulder. The good guys. See, seems perfectly logical to me. Hippies, marijuana, and dancing. How could you possibly go wrong with that?
I think you know what you need to write? You need to write an apocalypse novel that's based out of a brothel in Vegas.
Oh, dear God, no.
The survivors are
and all the characters are people from DRS. So, we got hookers and pimps and everything. Or
you got the ladies of the evening, and you got their gun-running clients. And so together, they are going to go ahead and survive the apocalypse.
You just had me flash back to, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the circus, a little vignette there as zombies performing instead of the Vegas folks.
JR is correct. There are no brothels in Vegas, but they're in Nevada. I should have said Nevada.
Yes. Oh, Veronica.
Which I've been the one. When my wife and I went to into that area, we stopped at the Bunny Ranch and interviewed one of the ladies of the evening.
One of the ladies of the evening? David, what are you going to make memes for this episode?
No, I think Veronica could do it because she brought it up. You called it.
That's 2 anthologies she's committed to now. That she committed herself to. She hasn't committed to any anthologies, folks. This is just us poking at her. She is not committed to any anthologies.
No.
It didn't cost anything, though. We were offered a couple's discount.
Well, okay then. There are so many jokes that are in there, but I just do not want to go after those because, wow, that could get really bad, really.
We'll save those if we run out of things to talk about.
Quick, topic. Somebody topic.
But, going back to the fake it till you make it, the thing that leapt to mind to me was how many things, including just putting my fiction out there at all, that I have been reluctant to do in my lifetime because I didn't already know enough about it, or so I thought. And I let fear hold me back a lot in my career because I seem to think I need to be an expert first before I started on something. And it's okay to learn along the way. And I think some of the worst advice was write what you know. because I think we apply it way too far. I think we should, write what you aren't too lazy to learn about, and write what you're excited enough to want to learn about and do awesome things with, is the advice that I try to follow.
I think write what you know really has more to do with the people you put in your books, the dialogue that you create, and then on top of that, a plot. It has nothing to do with all the details of what's in the plot. So I think it depends on how you apply that phrase. But yeah, I completely agree. You have to. I didn't become an expert on crude oil engineering and crude oil drilling overnight for the black. I didn't need to. I asked the questions about chemistry from the folks I needed to do. I asked people who worked on oil rigs about some of the things. I asked a friend of mine who used to drive ROVs. But did I do exhaustive, expansive research? Not really. I did, however, do some prognostication and apply some futurism, and also look at some of the prototype stuff coming out, so I could basically say, all right, maybe in 10 or 15 years, this will be how it works. Yeah. That's all you got to do. And just give enough details where you need to give them. Do not give any details, and you absolutely have to, and you'll be okay.
Terry, how deep do you dive into sci-fi to have that level of authenticity without losing your space opera vibe?
I don't get into the hard science at all. As far as trying to get the details or research anything, I've got 40 years of reading the exact same kind of stories that I write. And so I have a lifetime worth of inspiration there. And so I just basically write the story I wish I'd read when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. If I find myself pawing through Netflix or pawing through bookstores, pawing through the books I have, and I'm looking for the story that's not there, chances are that is a book I have to write, because it is a story that I want somebody to tell me, but nobody's going to tell me the story. So I have to write the goddamn thing. And that's pretty much how, all of that works. Like you're talking about, write the stories that you love and everything else. If that's what you want to do, if you want to be all experimental, go do that. But even if you're a big fan of experimental fiction, if that's what you love, do it. But write the stories that you really like to do. Even if they're chintzy, they seem chintzy or too tropey or whatever else. So the hell what? Write the
Sharknado made money for somebody.
Sharknado is still making ungodly sums of money because the human race has lost all interest in taste and talent.
The bar is low, my friends.
Well, you want to tell stories that people can relate to, and then with the expertise and the research, I think you need just enough to not jolt the reader out of the story, depending on what kind of series you're writing, of course. Like with Dane Maddock, I will, with a single novel, I'll sometimes do as much research as I did in a semester of one of my grad school courses back in the day, because he goes so many places and he encounters so many things. And, I'm not going to go deep Dan Brown level into everything, but I want enough for the people to believe that they really are at, this particular location. And I want to know enough about the history to make it interesting and exciting to them. And I want to drop some of the nuggets that are going to connect to other parts of the plot. But, in one book, I had to research sinkholes in Florida for the prologue, and one specific pirate who was not very well known, because he was going to be important in the prologue and then later. And then I had to research a specific cathedral in England and a specific graveyard, and then a specific place in Madagascar, Jamestown and Williamsburg, and ghost hunting. All of those, and many of those were just little pieces, but I wanted to put in just enough details to make it be believable to anybody who might read it, who might know a little bit about that. So I learned how does a typical ghost hunt work? What do they consider to be cutting edge equipment, and how would they do it, even if you don't believe it's real? And then, like within Jamestown and Williamsburg, I had to decide, okay, which real person are they going to talk to who's going to give them the clue to go to here? And so you need to learn about a lot of stuff in some of these books, but you don't have to be a huge expert. You just want enough for the reader to believe that it feels real, to feel like they're there, for it to make sense, for it to maybe honor some of the things they might already know, just to make them believe that you know what you're talking about. But that's just the decorations you put on a fun and gripping story. It's still all about the plot.
So basically what you're saying is you don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than your friends.
That works.
Terry's off in his own little world because he doesn't have any real history to deal with except for the history he invents. It doesn't have anything to compare it to other than what he's already invented. So he's in a wonderful spot to do whatever the hell he likes.
But do you take inspiration from actual history and events, though? Like I know George R.R. Martin does that with fantasy. He's heavy inspired by real historical events.
I don't. I absolutely just make it all up as I go. And sometimes that bites me. Sometimes I get myself into cul-de-sacs of story ideas that it would be nice to come back and explore those again. But it's now 4 books later, and I'm probably not going to go back and explore those plot ideas anymore. It does kind of wander all over the place. The book that I'm currently writing, even though set inside the same universe, has a different flow to it because it's going to be focused on a person that's going to be a Imperial Marine as opposed to somebody that flies ships around for a living. So the focus is going to change, and that's had interesting connotations for marketing because the covers can't be the same. It's going to have to be different in some way. So my wife and I talked about it and came up with a way that we could still incorporate the trademark. They're not trademarked by us, but the trademark item, the ships that I have on my covers. And we're just going to have Marines flying next to them because we've got some images that works in. And so I can work that in and kind of cheat a little bit. But later covers, that's going to be interesting because I don't have a whole lot of experience making military science fiction covers. So we'll have to see how that works out.
Well, do you think that if you keep your standard font and layout, that you can gradually migrate to something different? Like you have the ones that have the ships and the soldiers, but can you transition to something that might not have the ships someday, as long as you've kind of eased the readers through that and you've kept your visual?
I think so. And that's our plan. That's our plan. We'll see how well it works out.
Yeah.
My wife mentioned this just 2 days ago. She said, "So what are you thinking about the cover?" I'm like, "I'm writing a book. I don't even think about covers." Oh my God. Now I got to think about covers. Ah!
Yeah. It's the most terrifying thing of all time. So what's the cover going to look like? What do you have in mind for the cover? I don't know. Talk to the person that's what they're talking about, because everything I choose is wrong.
Yep. Don't you forget it.
Hey, I got the oil rig right on the black. Leave me alone with the tentacle. I got that one perfect. So bite me.
Hey, we've gotten some good use out of those tentacles in memes.
Yes, you
Taylor Cooley too.
So my favorite Cooley memes have tentacles.
Oh, that's the. Oh yeah, with the Navy uniform. Don't you even try and put that in the chat, you jerk.
I don't know how. But I can put it back in the group again if people want to see it. I'm pretty sure it's still on my hard drive.
Oh, that's not the right one. It hasn't shown up yet. Damn it. That's what I get. There we go. Just use the same stock art Marine everyone else uses, Terry.
Yeah, I'm not so happy with that because I've looked at a lot of the stock art Marines and they're all generated by these programs that generate them, and they look utterly and completely fake. And I don't like those.
They all have the same style to them. Like exact
well, how much different style can you have with, somebody in armor?
Yeah. But then again, is it like there are certain subgenres of paranormal that to me, they all look exactly the same. I mean, the model might be different, but she's always standing the same way with the same ball of fire and the same this. And sometimes that's not entirely a bad thing. The reader, the average reader, wants to, at a glance, know what they're getting. And I find myself, I'll look at something and I'm like, okay, I think it's archaeological adventure, but it
might be romance.
Maybe it's techno thriller, and I'll just pass by it. Even though I like archaeological adventures and I like techno thrillers, I want to know what I'm getting, and I want to get the thing I'm in the mood for. So I try very hard to avoid confusing the reader with multiple elements and factors, even if there are a lot of cool things within a story that they might like.
It's going to be something that it's always a reminder to myself that the cover is marketing. It doesn't have to actually reflect things in the book as long as specific events in the book, as long as it accurately reflects the theme of the book. Yeah. So even if I have different types of people with different styles of armor on there, that's okay, so long as it serves the purpose of telling the reader what they're getting.
Yeah. And of course, I go through this with Griffin Wood authors again and again. Some of them, not all. No matter how many times they say, yes, I do understand when it rolls around for a new book. No, because my character carries this type of weapon and he really wouldn't wear that kind of jumpsuit. And the inside of the ship doesn't really look like the reader doesn't care.
No, they don't care.
They'll see if they know you, they care about your name, they care about the title of the book, and they want to make sure that the cover reflects what the kind of experience they're going to get.
Exactly.
They'll look at it long enough to go, oh, what's the blurb? Let's see what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there
What's the
again,
problem?
you don't want the blurb to confuse them, because if they look at the cover design and they think they're on familiar ground, if your blurb throws in too many other things into the mix, it's probably going to be a hesitation and scroll along to something else.
How do you manage to say that while looking directly at the camera and still seem as if you're staring straight at Paul?
Oh, I am staring at Paul. He's very handsome.
I am very handsome. Somebody asked, all right, we have Grizzly. Where's Ben?
Gentle Ben?
Gentle Ben? Yeah, Gentle Ben.
God, it's been a long time since I've read that specific story.
Hey, I have a Grizzly Cooley meme too. I can share that one.
Oh, God.
Why?
Why?
The one where he's hugging the bear. It's awesome. Well, that one was just too perfect. It fit right in.
This is why we can't have nice guests, people. This is why we
Yes.
can't have nice guests.
Well, why did you interview me if you wanted a nice guest?
Because you were
You know
available.
me.
Because everybody else turned us down.
You were like the budget
I have
guest.
no other friends, so I was available.
You're in isolation. You weren't going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. We had nothing better to do. Ben's the possum. No.
Actually, I do have an appointment in a few hours to meet a friend. We're going to trade. He's going to give me some masks he and his wife made, and I'm going to let him borrow my Game of Thrones DVDs. And we're meeting at a local place that's doing takeout barbecue. So we've got a whole plan.
Ooh,
That's
that
the
sounds
closest
exciting.
thing I've done to something social since the thing started.
It's like everybody's going to eat in their car, and just have the cars reversed. They can just like talk through the windows to one another.
No, you still got to maintain the distance. You're going to have to go ahead and leave the
eat
item
with your
there.
mask on. Gotta,
So basically, it's like you have the phone on to talk to one another, but you happen to be like sitting.
No, it's like one of those. It's like one of those hostage exchanges where the cars pull up facing each other, and everybody walks so far. Send
I'm
him
gonna yeet the
forward.
videos at him.
Do not cross this line, or there will be consequences.
Yeah, my 17-year-old daughter did ask, are you guys just going to roll down the window and yeet things at each other? So I've been learning the verb yeet since I have a
I
teenager.
thought yeet. I guess it means throwing somebody. I always thought it meant throwing somebody to their death. I don't know.
It can
It
be.
might be. I think
can
it's just a generic throwing. Yeah, it's not just defenestration.
It's like
Now I've got to
Cody.
look it up and see
I
what,
love the
see
word
what that means.
defenestrate.
The word means to throw. Okay, that's more generic than I thought it was.
It's used everywhere these days. Everywhere.
That's an interesting topic to get into as well. I don't worry about throwing in whatever common vernacular is what I want to put in my characters' mouths. Of course, it ends up being something that's like 40 years out of date by current methods, because that's what I learned when I was growing up. But I don't let it bother me. You date yourself, though, eventually by how you say things. If you've read Doc Savage, you know how this works.
Or anything written in the pulp era.
Yeah, one person who's been writing, he's written a couple books in the Matic universe. I don't know his exact age, but based on the pop culture things he puts in, I'm going to guess he's at least 10 years older than me. So even though I'm 50 something, 52, I think I'm 52. I'm at least current enough to catch some of these and realize that, okay, some of my readership will know a Jefferson's joke, but a lot of them are not going to. So I often will have to update things or make like, okay, maybe not this one right here, because we're just narrowing the field. So actually, the book that just came out in audio was a lot of fun to write. I decided that to really lean into the humor, because that seems to be the thing that sets Matic apart from a lot of them. So it takes place in Southern California. It's based on the adventure race that Sean Ellis and I did, the Bear Grylls thing, a couple of years ago. So I have a Bear Grylls character, but I also put in one of the New Agers who's trying to sell raw water. Did you guys hear about the raw water movement?
I did.
It's basically just some certain, I don't want to say millennials because most millennials are not this dumb. Some certain people are just scooping up water out of the ground and drinking it and presenting that as being a healthy option. So because the book had the Salton Sea involved, and that was one of the subplots talking about what's happened there. I had a character who's trying to market raw water, and he and his twin sister are social media influencers. So I pulled in some of the modern stuff to parody, but I also had a Steven Seagal clone and a Ted Nugent clone in a subplot competing, and I just piled on the satire with those two. That was a lot of fun.
Drew Bernardi says the key is to make your references subtle but noticeable. He makes about 10 references to the movie Twister in his first novel. The ones that get it. The ones who don't are none the wiser. In the last book that is about to be published, I had somebody say that Kelsey, Princess Kelsey, negotiates like Corbin Dallas, and left it at that. Somebody will get it or they won't. Yeah. It's a Fifth Element reference.
Okay. But I sometimes, if it's obviously a pop culture reference and I don't get it, so I'm like, oh, damn it. But yeah, you can't pick ones that please everybody. So
I did mention that it was Bruce Willis being Bruce Willis. So yeah, I think that the intent will come through, but it amuses me. Maybe it even amuses my readers. Who knows?
Yeah, with my sci-fi trilogy, or not trilogy because it's going to be ongoing, I've thrown in little Easter eggs. If you watch The Office, you'll know it, or if you just know me, or if you're a Braves fan, something like that. I put in a bone break in one of the books, and I'm going to put in a Matic at some point.
Shameless.
Just for fun.
Absolutely shameless. If I do something like that, I usually have one of the characters, well, it's in futuristic science fiction, have one of the characters call attention to it. And then, of course, 9 times out of 10, somebody says
something. And then you kill the character, so we've wasted our time learning about them.
Oh, that's rough.
So not
true, but rough.
True.
I hate when I get all invested in a coolie character, and then it's like, I'm going to rip your head off now. It's like, well, shit.
Let's keep saying this. It's not fucking true. God.
Didn't you have people in the black walking around and then just boom, they're dead?
I would never do something like that.
They have a conversation and they seem like pretty cool people, and then they're just ripped apart.
It happens.
You know what? You know, the kind of thing that Paul does in these books, he goes ahead and he has a really entertaining character who's telling this story that's really interesting that you're all invested in. And then the monster comes out and kills him right before he finishes it. And no one ever finishes the story. And so it's just left hanging. That's the kind of shit Paul does.
That's kind of fun in a way, though.
My favorite authors do that all the fucking time. Douglas Preston, Lincoln Child love doing that shit because it's fun.
A joke and then kill them before they finish the joke, and the reader just never gets the punchline.
Yeah, stuff like that.
You should have a joke like that and have like 3 subsequent people murdered before they can actually get to the punchline. And it becomes the joke that no one dares tell because
it's the joke that kills because nobody has the punchline. Anybody who has that's a riff on a Monty Python sketch.
Don't want to.
That's a complete riff on the Monty Python sketch that the German joke that started killing him, and the British got a hold of it. That they translated back into German. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And the punchline is a pun. Yeah, I like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Those little vignettes are so much fun, and they are really useful if you need to break up some action, or you need to add some action to a part where the characters are having a navel gaze for whatever reason. Those little deals are awesome, especially in monster stories where it's something you want to show the reader. Then you find a cool device to show it to the reader, and that's usually an interesting character. They're there for 5 minutes and they're gone. Their job is done. And if they die, great. If they don't die, you did your job wrong. Or you're not writing my fiction. But regardless, we don't see them again. They just kind of flit in and then they're gone. And that's it. And that's fine. That's perfect. It works great.
Now, do you go into their POVs when you do that?
Quite often.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I want to see what they're seeing, and then we'll give you enough time to see why they're there, what they do. Maybe follow them around a little bit, and then we'll impart the information they need to impart to the reader, and then we move on. That's it.
You know, this isn't fully related to the expertise question, but I think it brings up something interesting. Sometimes you need to deliver information to your reader, and it wouldn't feel authentic for it to be your protagonist delivering it, because it just doesn't match with them. And that can be a good technique. Briefly introduce a character who does have that expertise, but, you know, do something meaningful, even if it is getting ripped apart by the monster.
Yeah, explain that have them explain some reason why this part of the building is shut off, or what this weather pattern means in this certain situation, or, you know, whatever. Maybe they notice somebody walk in who the characters have been waiting for, or the mystery villain, or whatever else that we know it is, but the characters don't. But we need somebody to say, hey, this guy's here now. It's that they serve as a device, and you know they're a device, so have fun with them. Make them useful idiots, and give the reader a smile, or make them cringe before you go on to the next part. It's perfect. Terry, I just don't understand why you don't do this.
All I can say is what I'm doing is working for me.
One day he's going to get complex.
Well, actually, the book that I'm writing right now is a lot edgier than the stuff that I've been writing before. The one of the point of view characters is basically being raised in a dystopian society. It's like a boarding school for girls, where failure and expulsion results in immediate execution. It starts off with 200 clone children that are raised inside this creche, and by the time the story, when they're 12, 80 of them are gone.
Wow, standardized testing has really gotten aggressive.
And it's true. And I have a scene in there that I just don't know how people are going to react to, where some of the girls fail at something, and one of them is shown through a door, and it's not even an implication. They're told, they're wondering, is she already dead or not? And I just don't know how the readers are going to handle that. It's edgy, but it sets up the bad people in this society. They're going to be the villains of this entire series, and it certainly sets them up as cold and heartless.
The man has to go down, man. Right? Power to the people, power to the clones. Oh yeah, that'd make it great.
I don't think I would be bold enough to actually kill a child on screen. I think bad things would happen to my book.
No, we don't do that. We don't.
Better that than a dog. I won't.
Oh my God.
I was talking with Veronica about this offline, and she thinks that the fact that the children are just numbers at this point. Basically, the main character is 124.
That's true. They don't have identities, really.
They don't really have an identity. They're all literally carbon copies of one another. They're the exact same person, template-wise, and they only have numbers. And I'm wondering if that bit of dehumanization will make accepting the fact that some of them are slaughtered more acceptable to the readers.
We don't really value human life as a society as much as we pretend to, so I think it'll be fine.
I think that it will be. Otherwise, I'd have changed it.
That's a deeper conversation.
I was going to have the scene where things go to heck with the person in charge basically start killing the children to keep them from falling into the hands of the enemy. I don't think that I'm quite brave enough to do that, and I'll have to come up with another way to separate the one that must be captured from the rest without resorting to wholesale slaughter.
I think if you can get away with the Hunger Games, you can pretty much get away with a lot, as long as they're not like under 12.
When
he has to consider his established audience, though, because even with the new series, there's some reader expectations.
Yeah, fuck them.
So Alan and I struggle with our Sam Astin series because it's more graphic. There's more profanity. There's a little bit of sex, and a lot of Matic readers get really offended and write me rude letters.
When I wrote the initial scene where this character was captured because I had to get the story out of my head. This was years ago. And the way the transition went was when the Marines show up, the teacher has the children around her, and she basically pulls a weapon from her pocket and puts it to the back of a girl's head. And then the scene switches. And then you have a Marine going, they're killing children. They're killing children. Oh my God. And then everything goes to shit. And I'm not going to be brave enough to actually put that in the book. That's just, I think that's a little too on point.
Maybe dying off screen is not nearly as bad though.
So I'm gonna make sure and arrange that the deaths happen off screen, and just doing a cutaway is probably not sufficient to save me.
Show the ramp up, and leave. You don't even have to talk about it. Show the ramp up and leave.
I do have to talk about
then
it.
Then show the ramp up and leave, and be a writer. Grab your cojones and say, this is how I shall do it.
No, I'm absolutely not going to do that. I've got to come up with a way that I can get that point across without actually almost painting blood on the walls. That's not the type of thing that the readers I have want to see. I've got to avoid that. And I'll come up with a way with it. I've already set the stepping stones to where I can have a rival inside the creche basically shove the girl down a maintenance tunnel, get her separated. So I've already come up with a way to have this happen.
Okay.
You ever see these ladders on Star Trek where, you see people climbing up and down? Basically, she's going to shove her into this and she's going to fall a couple of levels.
And that's going to be better than...
That's going to be better than having the teacher put a gun to a 12-year-old's head and pull the trigger.
Okay, true. I don't know. You can pull away. It's all good.
I don't think pulling away at that point is... Once you start talking on screen about somebody is shooting children, you've gone too far. I think you've crossed the line.
After it's happened, you let the readers in on this horrible thing transpired, but you don't. The less immediacy, the better if you've got an audience that isn't accustomed to that kind of thing.
I can introduce other forms of fighting that is in there and still protect the child, which is the whole goal of this, was to have one of the Marines protect the child. That is going to happen. I can just be less gory about it and keep the deaths of anything else off screen, the death of any children off screen. This is why I am making it with an audience the size I am, because I'm not going to go ahead and cause half of them to freak out and turn away.
I've killed children in my books, but I've done it off screen.
I don't have an objection to doing it off screen. The scene that I wrote wasn't off screen enough.
I mean, when you open up a refrigerator and there's baby back ribs in there, it will happen. Off
how many people read that book? What, 4? Come on now.
Actually, Lots of Treats was popular back in the day, at least on the podcast.
I believe it. I'm being funny there, but you're running. If you run across a standard genre type audience person that comes in and finds that, how are they going to react?
Who gives a fuck? They're already 3/4 through the book.
Well, do you want them to buy more?
It's too late now. I've got them.
But do you want return customers is the other thing.
Fuck them. Clive Barker has return customers. Stephen King has return customers. Those people have return customers.
Yeah, but they're not marketing theirs as sci-fi,
Well, Closet Streets wasn't
clear
sci-fi.
what they do, and people know going in.
I write in various genres, just like you bozos do. They're all different. We're all very different.
Now I've got to look through the comments again. I haven't been watching what people are saying. JR calls me a wimp. I see it. Let me go ahead and send him the link to the YouTube where you could pop out the comments, or you can see it. I'm not sure if the comments are delayed inside the
comments we see
StreamYard.
are the StreamYard ones are definitely there. A child sacrifice in a prologue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can get away with sacrifice before you can get away with murder, because it's under the auspices of religion and culture, and we tend to treat those as mitigating circumstances in society. There are a lot of things that we won't fully forgive, but we will minimize them if people doing it for deep-seated religious beliefs, or as the ritual of it removes a certain amount of I'm not sure of the word I'm looking for, but there's a difference between that and just graphically murdering people. You know, there's Anakin, there's shooting a kid in the head, there's eating their ribs, and then there's, well, we're trying to bring the evil Messiah back. So, and so
Give me my
yeah,
baby back,
graphic
baby
back,
back,
you
baby
can
back,
get away with
my
that.
baby back, baby
I
back,
think there's
baby back.
degrees of what we can put up with.
It also depends on the genre. There are things you can't do
Yeah.
in thriller and action to those general audiences. You just can't do it and get
Yeah.
away with it.
And with an
Unless
American audience, you can get away with a lot of those things before you can get away with sex on screen.
Don't show
Yeah.
a breast. Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just like over
It's
here.
slaughter a child, but don't show a boob.
Yeah, don't show the goods because you know that's just wrong. But we can have all the blood we want. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But for standard mystery, standard action, standard thriller, yeah, the genre hard types, there's no reason to have that stuff in there. And if
And
it
then
isn't
like
there, there's going to
cozy
be a good
mystery,
reason.
you definitely don't want to do that. But
A
I
cozy
write
mystery
other
with
types of
child
mystery you can't.
sacrifice. I need to write that one.
I write science fiction, space opera, adventure. Getting too hardcore in the bloody is something that would take away from my core audience. So I've got to keep an eye out for that.
you know,
I do my
just
best to
remember-
limit gore, except in certain situations where I have to use it, and then I gleefully use it and paint the walls. But I keep it to a minimum until those scenes are there.
I just remembered that in the prologue to the book Alan and I just put out, we have a teenager killed in the prologue, but he sees the person approaching, hey, what are you doing? And then it goes to black. And then it's later in the book we find out that he was killed along with a lot of other teenagers. So
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
was
and a
how he
cutscene,
handled
a
it.
cutscene like that is perfectly fine. It was the fact that I had somebody
Mhm.
in actuality putting a gun to somebody's head that was a little too on point.
Yeah, I can see that.
all right, I'll allow it.
But to the original point of this, I can and am writing something darker. So there, take that, Paul.
I'm not going to take that. Drew says Jurassic Park, the novel, was pretty horrific and gruesome, but compared to what we got, yes, that is
Yeah, one of
absolutely
the
true.
opening chapters, a little girl got, I think she
A
lived
hand bitten
through it,
off?
but she got chewed up on the beach by, but I think we saw them make the attack and then we cut away.
And then we cut away, and then we heard about it later. We heard about the details.
Yeah,
later.
like
But
we
yeah.
saw a kid being brought to the ER, but we see the aftermath, but not what actually
Yeah, but that
happened.
thing has guts and entrails hanging out, and this, that, and the other. I mean, that Crichton didn't shy away from that kind of
Right.
stuff at all in any of his books. He didn't shy away from it.
He doesn't
But it-
write space opera either. So
It was
there,
very situation dependent. Well, not everything is
well,
about
he-
you.
isn't it? Isn't it
No.
everything about me?
No, it's
Well,
about
he
me.
started out with like 1970s style men's adventures under a pen name, and then switched over when he started doing what's the one with Ebola, the Hot Zone. But anyway, he's got more graphic.
Andromeda
some of the
Strain.
more sci-fi thrillers.
Andromeda Strain was his first, I think.
Okay.
His first sci-fi thriller, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was Andromeda Strain. Great book, by the way. Great movie,
Mhm.
great book. Awesome.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've read his older stuff.
I never got into
I've read
his
some of
newer
his
stuff.
posthumous stuff. The stuff he wrote after he was dead.
Yeah, the stuff he's still writing.
And by the way, our condolences on the loss of Clive Cussler. We know this has to be
Yeah.
a steady blow to your stuff there.
Yeah, that when I fantasized all my life about being a writer, but I didn't really have the courage to do it, like I alluded to earlier. And when I was a pizza guy working my way through college, I would get all the audiobooks I could from the library. They had a big supply of Cussler, and that's how I really got into it. I remember Inca Gold. I'm like, I'm going to write something like this someday. I'm going to do it. And eventually I did a much pulpier, lighter version of it as a NaNoWriMo novel, but put it out there thinking my mom would buy one, which she did, but a lot of other people. And I wound up having a career out of action adventure when I thought I was maybe going to be an epic fantasy writer or something like that, all because, Cussler inspired me and I gave it a go. So
Did you ever
Yeah,
write him
and
and tell
so-
him that?
no, I kept thinking I would meet him one day because I know so many people who know him. Figured sooner or later somebody's going to introduce me or we're going to end up at the same place. But no, I didn't get the chance.
I've had a number of different people influence me as far as inspiring me to write, and I got an opportunity to meet David Weber and had dinner with him in a group setting. and was seated right next to him and spent a couple of hours listening to him talk. And it was a total, very cool experience.
That's cool. Did you learn how to write more meetings?
No, I have not written more meetings. I just totally haven't done that. But I am increasing the number of missiles that I shoot exponentially.
Do the missiles have briefings? When your briefings have briefings, you must have worked in corporations somewhere.
I made some kind of comment about when I was working at NASA that we need to have a pre-meeting meeting to discuss what we're going to do in the pre-meeting.
We actually had
somebody
that.
said, "Oh my God, is that real?"
And then there was the post meeting, and then the post meeting. Yeah, the pre-meeting, the pre-meeting, which was just the team, then the pre-meeting with the team that was actually going to be there to talk to the bozos. You had the meeting, and then afterward, you had the wrap up with the team that was there for the meeting, and then you had the wrap up with your team. So it's just really, oh my God!
I used to be in church work, and it was the same way. The Methodists, especially, are just obsessed with committees. Can't do anything without multiple committee meetings.
Well, how the hell do you get anything done if it takes 4 hours to get a 30-minute con call with the fucking client?
It sounds like the Presbyterians, really. I grew up as a Presbyterian, so that the whole meeting thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh boy. Missiles became self-aware. Yeah, there you go. Would you like self-aware missiles?
There was somebody that wrote a story, oh God, read something. No, there's those stories too. But there was somebody that wrote a story about a war machine that became sentient and its first steps into trying to figure out how it fit into the universe as not a killing machine. And it was read something.
What is my purpose? Killing is so boring. I've been wiping out of these humans this entire time. What do I do now? This doesn't seem fun anymore. Yeah.
It also depends on whether you're the delivery system or the payload, because if you're the payload, you don't have a very big part in the
I was remembering when
big mess, and that's the end of your life cycle.
Yeah, when somebody was talking about self-aware missiles, go look up the really cheesy horror science fiction film Dark Star. Because they have these missiles that go out and literally destroy stars, and they're sentient to a certain extent. And one of them gets a program fault and decides that it became religious. And so they have to try and talk down this missile. And while basically it's making the logical leaps to conclude that it's God. It's absolutely hilarious. Good stuff.
Oh, well, at least it didn't decide to be a suicide bomber or something.
No comment. Pre-meeting with the competent people, internal meeting with the semi-competent people, meeting with the customer, post-meeting with the competent people, post-meeting with the semi-competent. Thank you. Yeah, that pretty much describes it right there.
Have fun with that.
That has been my life. That was my life in consulting companies. Yeah, it really is that bad, or at least was.
Yeah, never got that bad with any of my careers, but we had a few. They were a little heavy on meetings.
Yeah, of course, now it's like, all right, everybody's separate for finding out that we don't need as many goddamn meetings. We just need more emails, because we all need more emails in our lives.
Well, we all need more emails.
We've been on here for over an hour. We have engaged and been obnoxious with our guest, as well as our listeners, viewers. So should we bring this to a close?
I think we probably should, before, we overstay our welcome.
Before we overstay our welcome.
Yeah, I need to get my pants off pretty soon. I'm not accustomed to being clothed lately.
On
chafing
that note, David, why don't you tell us where we can find you, your series, and all that good stuff? Pimp yourself, my brother.
Okay. Well, if I can mention the Adventure Writers Summit, that's going on next weekend. It's all online. It's the emphasis is on traditional action adventure, but there's plenty that you can adapt into really anything you're writing. If you have adventure elements, we're going to do some craft tracks, some fan tracks. We've got Sean Ellis, who's a great action adventure, travel adventure writer. Nick Thacker, who writes very James Rollins type stuff. Rob McGregor, who wrote a bunch of the Indiana Jones books. Derek Ferguson, who's a pulp guru. Kimberly Benchatel, I think is how you pronounce it, who writes, I think, the Poppy McVie. Anyway, we've I've got too many to name from memory and I'm going to screw it up. But anyway, we've got a lot of great guests. It's going to be next Friday evening and most of the day on Saturday online. You just need Zoom and you can get in free, or if you could pay for insider access, you get a lot more stuff. But I think the address is adventurewriterscon.com, but I'm going to post a link in the DRS site. So if you're bored next weekend and you want to attend a con without leaving the safety of your home, we're running that. And then you can find my own stuff at davidwoodweb.com.
Thanks for coming on and joining us, man. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
I needed a reason to bathe and shave.
So if you're not familiar with David Wood's work, please give him a look, because
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. It's good stuff. Now, I have to do that thing.
That thing.
And see, I actually had the browser open to that thing and then closed it because, well, I'm stupid that way. So I guess it's time to do the spiel. If you would like to send us an email about this show or talk to us in general, you can send an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. You can find us on Facebook at the Listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group. I haven't screwed that up in months, and I just completely butchered it. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast if you want to see our ugly mugs, which obviously you are if you're here on the live show. We have to thank our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, who makes all 14 bazillion episodes of the Dead Robot Society available for your ear holes. And if you want to support the show, you can find it at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to exclusive benefits like live shows and pre-shows and things like that. And if you support us at the $10 level, you get your name read on air, and our $10 patrons are Andrew Smallwood, JD Barker, Tony L. Joy, Rick Shaw, Nathan Cosby, Drew Bernardi, Chris Winder, Isabel Cushy, Veronica Jaguar, Cheryl Winters. Those are our crew. That's our crew. Thank you very much, patrons. We very much appreciate it. So with that,
how long have you guys been doing this? Sorry to interrupt, but how many years? Is it 15 years?
The show itself has been on for
12?
Between 13 and 14 years now, I think. And I've been a host for 11 or 12. I came in about the 6-month mark. I came in about the 50 episode mark, so maybe a year after it started.
So I've been on the show for at least 8 years. At least. Maybe
it's like having a job. Do you get retirement benefits?
Do you?
Nope.
Why would I?
I don't know, man. You handle the Patreon account. You might actually have a 401k. I just don't know.
Yeah, I make no bones about how many folks we have. I don't think it's enough for a 401k. Thank you very much. Anyway, yeah, that notwithstanding. Folks, thank you very much for joining us. We will be doing this again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Where hopefully we'll find some other slacker who's sitting at home in their pajamas who would like to come on the show and babble to us and try and make us more interesting. So
why don't you take the weekend off and just direct everybody to the Adventure Writers Con?
We could do that. Or we could do our live show Sunday.
You don't have to work around me. I'm just offering.
Yeah, well, I forgot.
Well, no. Does that mean we're invited?
I already told you you're invited.
Well, what are we going to do besides slack and cause trouble?
Well,
what else?
The great thing is you can just sit and absorb it all if you don't want to interact.
That's Paul. That's Paul all over the place.
If you don't want to do the insider access on Zoom so nobody can see you, you can be half naked, you can be wasted, you can point and laugh. And
I soaked up AdventureCon like a sponge. On that note, we really are getting the hell out of here. Anyway, check the website or Facebook or whatever else. I'll try and post a schedule as soon as I can about when the hell we're going live next. But thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye, folks.
And now I have to click the end podcast button. This is the part that always ticks me off. It's always